A preseason week is in the books, which means two things. The Ravens won again. They win every preseason game. And we have some winners and losers and some rankings risers and fallers to talk about here. And you know what, guys? I was thinking, hey, is this show, are we just going to overreact to everything? And then I went back a year ago and I looked at our winners and losers from last year. Let me read you some of the winners here. Dameon Pierce, Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, okay, whatever. Travis Etienne, Naeem Hines, Isaiah Pacheco, George Pickens, Romeo Dobbs. There's a pretty good list of winners. How about the losers? Antonio Gibson, Ronald Jones, DeAndre Swift was a loser, Mike Gesicki, Sky Moore, Chase Claypool, DJ Chark. You guys did a great job last year with winners and losers. So there is a lot to be learned, even from one weekend of preseason games. Jamie, what do you look for in preseason games? What actually matters to you?
Playing time, who they're playing with. I think those are big. What situations they come off the field for, in terms of running backs, some receivers as well, obviously with, 3 receiver sets, 2 receiver sets. But a lot of it is when are they playing in the part of the game that they're on the field? So are they with the starters in some degree, or are they more with the backups?
How about you, Heath? Same question. What do you look for? What matters?
Well, that's what matters most. I will say for the second half performances, especially for the rookies, you're just looking for guys who look like he should be an NFL player. There were a couple of rookies that we're going to talk about. One who I think is on the winners list, and one who I maybe didn't put on the winners list, who were rookies who didn't play with the starters necessarily, but man, they looked good. I'll just say one right now. I didn't put Deuce Vaughn on the winners because he's like RB4 right now on the Cowboys, but you cannot watch that dude's runs and the way he moves and say that he doesn't deserve to be on the field with an NFL team. Maybe he'll get hurt, but he's incredible.
Yeah, I'm having trouble remembering which running back it was, but one of the running backs in that competition fumbled, which is not Deuce Vaughn. So we're looking for backups here, things like that, who can move up the depth chart. So, okay, that's what we're looking for in the preseason. So with that being said, who's a big rankings riser for you, Jamie? Big rankings riser or just preseason winner? But I guess specify if you're actually moving this person up in the rankings.
I moved both up. I'll just say the same team, 2 guys from the Bears that scored touchdowns, because the only reason is that they scored touchdowns. But DJ Moore and Khalil Herbert, just seeing that Herbert mostly, just because I think there's some questions, and I think there still should be some questions in regard to what is going to happen with this backfield for Herbert. But the fact that he played 100% of the snaps with Justin Fields, or the starting group, and Deontay Foreman was a clear backup, Roshan Johnson, clear backup. I think those guys are going to have a role to whatever degree. We'll find out. But Herbert being involved in the passing game and his performance was huge, but playing 100% of snaps. And then look, DJ Moore was somebody that I was like, I feel like I'm too low to begin with. And so he bumped up a couple spots. It's not like it was a dramatic, change, but did move up a couple spots in my rankings just because it was something that I was toying with anyway. And, just hard to overlook what the potential could be for what that offense has to offer him and what he could offer it as well.
All right, so you moved him to wide receiver 16. Are these updated ahead of Judy and Allen?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Heath, I'll bring you in here because you're still not as high based on the rankings that I'm seeing on the website. Maybe they're not updated. You still have DJ Moore 23rd. He had a 60-plus yard touchdown catch and run on a wide receiver screen. Your thoughts on DJ Moore?
Yeah, I definitely moved him up a couple of spots, but one of the guys who I left him behind was Jahan Dotson, who I'm the high guy on, I know, but I have a hard time at making Jahan Dotson a faller after that incredible route that he ran and as good as he looked in limited action. So I do think the positive was the short throws that we saw from Justin Fields, and specifically on the Herbert play, throwing that ball to the running back and not just taking off and running. Now, maybe it's because he wasn't allowed to take off and run in a preseason game, and when it gets to live action, he's still going to do that. But I am hopeful, those short area targets for both Herbert and DJ Moore would be really big for Justin Fields.
All right, it was good to see. Jamie, did we talk about who you moved Herbert ahead of?
Who did I move Herbert ahead of? I moved him ahead of, I dropped both Eagles running backs because who knows what the hell's happening there. But I moved him ahead of Rashad Penny and DeAndre Swift. I think he might have been ahead of Swift already, but moved him ahead of both those guys.
Okay. Heath, who's a big rankings riser for you?
Those two were definitely on the list, but I will I'll reference what Jamie said, Kenneth Gainwell, and he's still my third running back in this Eagles backfield. And it doesn't have anything really to do with him not playing. It's just that there's so much noise coming out about Gainwell still having a role. And I'd kind of just assumed that as long as both guys were healthy, we'd see Penny on early downs and short yardage, and we'd see DeAndre Swift with the explosive plays and on passing downs. I'm not sure Rashad Penny's going to make this team. Like, it might be Kenneth Gainwell and DeAndre Swift in the backfield. So still, like I said, Gainwell, not someone I'm drafting in the first 10 rounds, but he wasn't somebody I was really drafting much at all before this past week. So a big rise for him and somebody that in that RB 50 range for now.
Okay. And that's kind of where Gainwell is. Gainwell is RB 55 on Fantasy Pros, but no date range on Fantasy Pros. I use Fantasy Pros because it pulls in ADP from a few different sources. NFC, if you just look at since August 11th, that's Friday. Swift is RB 17, Penny is RB 39, and Gainwell is RB 46. So it's still RB 17 for Swift. That's
no chance. He's not in my top 30.
Let me make sure I didn't have a typo there, because honestly, that might be 27. I may have messed that up, but that does not sound right. Swift. All right, I'll get back to that in a minute. But all right, we should talk about Swift when we talk about rankings fallers. We'll talk about the Eagles backfield again. I want to get your thoughts on Alvin Kamara. If I had a winner, I think it might be Kamara. First of all, the Saints offense facing the Chiefs, most of the Chiefs starters. Not their best defensive player, Chris Jones. He's in a contract dispute, but the Saints offense came out and looked terrific, spread the ball around, but Kamara had a couple of carries. He had a couple of catches all on one drive. I thought that was encouraging to see. And then Jamal Williams just, they've had some good backups in the past. Jamal Williams, I don't know if he is. So,
well, there's a plus and a minus to what might have happened to Kamara if you're going back to what happened a week ago. So Kendre Miller hurts his knee, and who knows how much time he's going to be out. Does that put them back in the Kareem Hunt conversation, which would be probably bad for Kamara? But if Miller's out for an extended period of time and Jamal Williams is Jamal Williams, then Kamara come week 4 could be amazing.
And as much as you love to crap on Jamal Williams, he is still the same guy that NFL coaches have always liked more than you do. And he's still going to receive, they still gave him that contract. He's still going to receive
so much in Detroit that they got rid of him and said, we need our running backs to be better. We need our running backs to do more with what they were, given with blocking. We didn't get enough from our running back. I mean, that's what they said. So obviously they didn't like him that much in Detroit.
Well, they liked him a lot more than DeAndre Swift or anybody else they had on their roster last year.
They liked him because he could stay healthy. DeAndre Swift couldn't stay healthy. I bet you that they'd rather give the ball to DeAndre Swift if they could just keep him on the field. If they liked him so much, they would have brought him back.
Well, he was pretty expensive, and they got that better guy, David Montgomery, another guy you hate.
I'm saying is Jamal Williams, he's not Mark Ingram. So I don't know. I just thought the fact that he had 2 catches, the fact that they have,
See, this is the type of thing that I just don't like. 2 catches for a guy who's 28 years old and has been in the NFL for as long. I just don't care at all.
Okay, I just thought that their offense looked good against the first team defense. And I'm not overreacting too much, but it was nice to see the involvement, at least for Kamara. Very involved. Okay, well, anyway, let's tell you what's coming up this week. We got sleepers, breakouts, and busts. Not in that order. Sleepers tomorrow, busts on Wednesday. Breakouts, we're going to record on Wednesday night. We're going to do 4 breakout episodes, be about 20 minutes each. We'll try to bring in an industry guest for each position. So that will air on Thursday audio-wise, Tuesday night or Wednesday night video-wise. Speaking of Tuesday night, we have a live stream Tuesday night. What kind of draft are we doing this week, Jamie?
Just a regular 12-team PPR.
All right. So be there at 8 p.m. Eastern. Join us for a live mock draft, and you'll see.
And we are giving away. We're auctioning off. I don't know what the right way to phrase it for St. Jude. 2 spots. So you can find that on whatever the eBay page is, Adam. I know you have that address.
Yes. Okay. So you can get a lot of things here. So it's tinyurl.com/FFT donate. You can get a guest appearance on our podcast. They only have a day left for that. $234 right now. We can do better than that. A spot in the FFT PPR mock draft and have Jamie Eisenberg recap your mock. What an honor.
What an honor.
$100 right now.
What that means is that we do a story associated with the drafts that we do, and the people that participate in the draft with us who donate to St. Jude will get featured in the story.
Now, are they guaranteed any sort of like positive review, or are they potentially setting themselves up for public embarrassment?
I will probably spin it in a positive way. Like your first 5 picks may have been a little questionable, but I really love what you did with your 6th round through 8th round.
Yeah, no, but that's great. And we'll be drafting. We'll be doing the draft live at youtube.com/fantasyfootballtoday Tuesday night at 8:00. So you can tell all your friends, hey, I'm on YouTube, kind of. But anyway, it's all for a great cause. It's all for St. Jude. It starts at $100. Let's see how much we can get those going for. Last thing is FFT Dynasty, Tuesday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Hear Heath Cummings on FFT Dynasty. And that is a separate podcast feed. It's in the same YouTube feed, but it's a separate podcast feed. So look for Fantasy Football Today Dynasty wherever you listen to podcasts. All right, let's get into our biggest ranking fallers. Heath, what do you got?
Yeah, I don't think it was probably related to anybody playing, but I have moved Jonathan Taylor down to round 3. And I know he's supposed to be coming back this week, but I hated that little caveat that was added onto it, that he has told the team that he will not be practicing or playing unless he is 100%. How many running backs are 100% for multiple games in an NFL season? It's a brutal position. It's one of the reasons I think these guys are so irritated over not having the ability to go earn the money that everybody else does, because they take 350 hits a season if they're good. Right. I don't feel good about. I feel worse about Taylor than I do Jacobs right now.
Do you feel better about Ramondre Stevenson than Jonathan Taylor at this point?
I haven't moved Stevenson at all, and he was at the end of round 3, so I still have Taylor ahead of him. But I think that's a fair discussion, and I think anybody who's really excited about Stevenson should like him more than Taylor right now.
Jamie?
I'm not there yet. I don't think this is anything more than the continued posturing about the contract. That he's saying he's not going to be 100% healthy. I mean, look, if he got a contract tomorrow, I'm guessing he's practicing. So I don't think this is anything more than the continued posturing about what the stance has been. I'm not going to play unless I'm satisfied to some degree. So my opinion on Taylor has not changed as a result of what happened.
I just think the way he's going about it actually leaves like that. You've talked about it before. The NFL has basically legislated out the ability to hold out. Like it's a terrible situation for the players if they try to hold out and miss games now. I do think the angle he's going with it is the one way you can maybe do that and pull it off. It's kind of the thing Dobbins is trying to pull off right now. If you just say my ankle's not okay,
yeah,
I don't know that they can fine you for
that. Correct. It's different than Jacob's situation because he's not under contract technically. He has not signed his franchise deal. So yes, he is a hold in, and that's like I said. I think if he was paid, he's practicing. This is his way of getting out of not practicing without being fined.
Okay. We just got some breaking news on Zach Ertz. We'll tell you about that in just a little bit here. Jamie, who's a rankings faller for you?
I mean, aside from the Eagles running backs and the flip side of Khalil Herbert, so Deontay Foreman, because I didn't like the fact of when he was playing. Greg Dulcich, the fact that Adam Troutman is playing ahead of him is not good for a guy that's coming with Sean Payton to Denver. That could be bad, for a guy that I think had some breakout potential and still might, but it's just tough to say that he's got that same upside if he's not even number 1 on the depth chart. Again, that could change, and I don't think that Troutman's better than him. But if they're going to feature Troutman to whatever extent they're going to feature him, whether it's first and second down because he's a better blocker, or he's getting some third down opportunities or some red zone opportunities, any player at that position playing ahead of Dulcich it's hard to trust. So I didn't drop him tremendously, but I did put the 2 rookie tight ends ahead of him who were right behind him for me. Okay. So Kincaid and Laporta have moved up, and Dulcich has moved down behind them.
The word pathetic comes to mind when thinking about the Broncos offense this past weekend.
What did I text you about, Wilson?
Dump Wilson or something?
Dust Wilson.
Yeah, I've been, for those of you just tuning in, I've been pretty excited about the idea of drafting Russell Wilson with one of my last picks it's free, and there are a lot of reasons why he could bounce back. I would like to see a little bit better going forward because that was awful. They didn't have Mike McGlinchey, their starting right tackle, but their offensive line stunk. He looked like Russ of last year. He just looked kind of clueless. So that was an ugly outing.
And for anybody who's just looking at box scores and you see the Judy touchdown and you see the way that he finished with over 100 passer rating, they left the starting offense in against the backups on purpose because they wanted to get something positive out of that. So Judy's touchdown was nice, but it was against second teamers at best, and that's a little scary.
It's about the most Jerry Judy preseason game there could be, isn't it? A terrible drop and score a touchdown and make an awesome play on it.
And got out targeted by Sutton. Sutton had 5 targets. So let's talk about the Eagles running backs here, because I think one thing I've learned throughout the years is that preseason week 2 could change your winners and losers, right? Like the Broncos, for example, could go out and look great next week and we could feel better about them. Or the Eagles next week are probably going to play Kenneth Gainwell and Boston Scott. I say next week, I mean this upcoming week. You're probably going to see them. Apparently, Nick Sirianni just wanted to see his newcomers this year. The only potential starters that played were, I think, on offense were just DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny, if you want to call them potential starters. But you might see all of them next week or this upcoming week, week 2 of preseason. So, yeah, I wonder, what to do with DeAndre Swift if things are going to change a lot in the next week. Because if there's a positive Swift, guys, I think it's this. He started ahead of Penny, and he played running back. He ran the football. He had a 24-yard gain on a really nice run. It wasn't just a gimmicky guy out in space, like lining up at receiver. It was a running back. So I think you kind of get the point here. Are we going to lower him too much and then next week kind of do a mea culpa? Is that going to happen? Jamie, where do you have DeAndre Swift now in your rankings?
I just dropped him a spot or two. It's not like I panicked on really any of them. And I agree with Heath. Gainwell should still be drafted right now as the third if you're doing a draft in the next couple of days prior to till we see that. The problem is that it's not just the preseason game. It was the lead up to the preseason game. And this is before I think anybody that was reporting it knew that those guys were definitely not going to play in terms of Gainwell and Scott. And so from what you're seeing coming out of it, and Heath alluded to this, is it going to be, if they're only carrying 3 tailbacks, is it Penny competing for that 4th or 4 tailbacks, I guess? Is Penny competing for that 4th spot and going to be either A, on the roster bubble, and B, not active every week? So it's just a little telling right now that the lead up to it was that, and then the eyeball, not the eyeball, but the product was that, on the field. And so, yes, Swift looked good. The 22-yard run was nice. He had a nice cut and, made it, bounce the outside. But you got to know what you're dealing with him as well. He's an injury-prone guy. So it would not be shocking at all if 2 things happen. One, if this is as much of a committee backfield as we're going to have in the NFL, where there's 3 guys touching the ball on a weekly basis, again, maybe 4, or are they just not happy with what they have and they bring somebody else in? Because there are still a couple guys out there that could be a big hindrance to this entire backfield. So if it's Gainwell right now and you're drafting him late, you might get a steal. If it's Penny and he falls, you might get a steal. But I think right now the safest one is probably DeAndre Swift, because I'd be very surprised if he doesn't have some semblance of a role. And at least maybe the passing down work gets better. They throw the ball to the running backs more, or he does happen to be the best running back there from a running downs perspective and could be an absolute steal if they give him that work and he stays healthy.
And I'm curious because I didn't move Swift or Penny because I felt like I was already quite a bit lower on them. But I got Swift as RB 32 in round 8. Penny is RB 38 in round 10, 11 turn. So I'm not excited about drafting either of them. I don't think I've drafted one of them yet this season. But I think that's still below ADP, isn't it?
Yeah. Swift. I did have a typo before. He's RB 27 in Fantasy Pros, in NFC since Friday. Swift, let's see where he is in fantasy. Yeah, it's below ADP. Yes. He's RB 26 in Fantasy Pros.
Our ADP, Adam, if you want to start to use it, is actually pretty close. So in terms of running backs, sorry, clicked on the wrong thing. That's about where they are too, I think.
In the mid-20s. Okay, so would you rather have DeAndre Swift or James Cook?
Cook, but I've been there for a while.
Cook by 10 spots.
Would
Yeah.
you rather have? All right, we'll get closer as we keep going. DeAndre Swift or Samaje Perine?
Pirine.
DeAndre Swift or Cam Akers?
Akers.
AJ Dillon.
Dylan, but now we're getting closer.
All right. So let's take a break. We come back. We'll have a lot more rankings, winners and losers and risers and fallers to tell you about. And we'll just go through some of the preseason stuff, maybe some backup jobs. Zamir White, for example. He might matter. You never know in Las Vegas. And I thought he had a pretty nice preseason game, even though the stats
made me so angry when I saw that in the notes. It made me so mad.
Why?
The guy averages 3.3 yards per carry, and we get a Zamir White is good.
I'm not as into yards per carry as you think I am. I mean, I thought he ran pretty well. He scored a short yardage touchdown. He was clearly the guy when they opened the game, and then he came out of the game.
Young Jamal Williams.
Dude, Jamal Williams sucks. He sucks. I'm right about this. I hate being right about things, and you make me keep telling you how right I am. I'm right. All right, we got to take a break. When we come back, news and notes, Davante Adams, Joe Burrow, Zach Ertz, Ken Walker, and more. Okay. Davante Adams hurt his leg. Did he not?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
I don't know how serious it is.
It doesn't sound serious, but
his coach said it didn't think it was serious, so.
I think he said it wasn't super serious. Just say it's not serious. Don't.
Aiden O'Connell, okay. Thought he looked better than Zamir White.
He did.
He might be better than Jimmy Garoppolo.
Okay, I'm making good progress. Zach Ertz expected to be ready for week 1. Should Zach Ertz or Trey McBride be drafted?
I think it's hard to justify drafting either one as a starting tight end for your fantasy team. But I think if you're going to take a shot on a second tight end, I would probably lean toward the younger of the two, just because of the potential recurrence of injury. So that's my take.
This is like one of those situations where I think I don't actually believe the Cardinals players or coaches think they are tanking this year. And so I expect Zach Ertz to be the tight end one at the beginning of the year. But I think Jamie's right. Like, the hope is that you get to pick up Trey McBride after Ertz gets hurt.
It's also a situation with a very, very, I don't want to say incomplete, but an incomplete receiving core. You know, we're expecting Rondale Moore to take this huge leap, which has never really happened, and Michael Wilson to be a significant playmaker in his rookie campaign. And all the while, Colt McCoy might have to support these guys. You know, it's like we might see a lot of, 2 tight end sets now.
Yeah, well, I there was also talk about Clayton Tune potentially being a starter. I think based on what he did in the preseason game, he's going to have to be better than that, unless they are just tanking. Ken Walker's back. Ken Walker, currently a late round 4 pick or a mid round 4 pick, depending on the website you look at. That's CBS, Fantasy Pros, Draft Sharks. So we were talking about him. You guys were hoping to get Ken Walker in round 6 when we did our running backs preview. Now he's back at practice. So give me
on the side, right? Like, he's just doing work on the side, I think.
Okay. Like salad dressing.
I've not moved him up at all.
Okay. Still round 6 for Walker?
Well, round 6 is where I would like to get him, but I would consider it in round 5 if, that's the next highest running back on my board.
If you were drafting today, would you draft Ken Walker or Alexander Madison? And I asked because got this Kareem Hunt stuff now where they even said, hey, Kareem Hunt might work for us. Madison or Ken Walker?
Until Kareem Hunt signs, I would take Madison.
I might still take Madison even if Kareem Hunt signs. I don't think Kareem Hunt's near as good as Zach Charbonnet at this point in their careers.
Yeah, that's the thing. Does Kareem Hunt matter, Jamie?
It matters in terms of touches. He may not be better, but he's probably going to get similar to Jamal Williams. Like, these guys are probably going to get touches. I think the one thing that might sway them is Ty Chandler looked pretty good. So does that keep them from, going after Kareem Hunt, or is this more of an indication of Dwayne McBride is not ready as a 7th round pick and they just don't like their entire depth behind Madison and Chandler?
Jamie mentioned this earlier, but Saints running back Kendry Miller left with a knee injury. The Raiders signed running back Damian Williams. Here's a scary idea. This is from ESPN's Jeremy Fowler as he reported from Lions camp. The loose estimate I got in Detroit is 40 to 50 catches for Gibbs this year. But keep this in mind with the Lions running game. Campbell is a big David Montgomery fan. He brought Montgomery up unprompted to me as a player who can, quote, do it all, end quote, including as a pass catcher. That's a scary, scary excerpt there for anyone who's drafting Jahmyr Gibbs in round 3.
If you like Jamal Williams, you're going to love David Montgomery.
He's probably better than Jamal Williams, but Jamie, you like Jahmyr Gibbs around.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that at all. I think, as you've noted time and time again, over the last 3 seasons in running back touches, there's a lot of opportunities here, especially in the passing game with what this receiving core looks like. So Jahmyr Gibbs does not, that report does not scare me off of Jahmyr Gibbs at all.
Okay. Top 9 in both running back carries and running back targets in each of the last 2 years, the Lions. Cleveland rookie running back Jerome Ford has a hamstring injury. We saw Demetric Felton start for them, and John Kelly also got a goal line carry.
I'm surprised they're not looking at a running back. Like, that's really shocking to me.
Yeah.
And I think that might tell you. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, that might tell you what Kareem Hunt has left. The fact that they've got this group behind Nick Chubb and they didn't want to bring Kareem Hunt back.
It's fair. It could be a money thing, as well. They got a lot of money tied into certain players, but it would be a little surprising though. Like this is what they go with, unless they feel like Ford's going to be ready and they really trust him.
Yeah. And speaking of those players, they have a lot of money tied into. We should talk about Deshaun Watson. We will. First, this will only take 10 seconds. An awesome TV show recommendation. I am hooked. I cannot stop watching. Have you guys watched The Bear?
No.
Oh,
but now that you like it, I probably will not watch it.
No, I promise you will like it. Please, somebody in the YouTube chat, give me some love for The Bear. It's on Hulu. It's only 25-minute basically episodes, I think. It is outstanding, and I think I'm going to end the show early so I can go watch it. Hey, real quick, some combos. Who would you rather have? Hey, real quick, combos. Would you rather have Lamar Jackson and Travis Kelce, or Patrick Mahomes and Mark Andrews?
Mahomes and Andrews.
Yeah, I think so.
Mahomes and Andrews over Jackson and Kelce. Okay.
That's a good one, though. It
Yeah.
might be one of your best.
Thank you. Would you rather have Cooper Kupp and Tony Pollard, or Bijan Robinson and Amon-Ra St. Brown?
Bijan and Amon-Ra.
I'll take Kupp and Pollard.
I shouldn't say this out loud because I'm sure some of my league mates are listening. I have the 4th pick tonight, half PPR. This is a St. Jude draft, not the FFT Open draft, but one from last year that we gave away. Really hoping for Bijan at 4. That's the good thing about 4. I know I'm going to come away loving my pick, All right,
so what's your fallback if Bijan goes in the first 3?
Probably McCaffrey.
Chase?
No, well, I don't think Chase will be there, but probably McCaffrey or Eckler. I'll take either Chase, McCaffrey, or Eckler. All right, last combo. You start with Justin Jefferson. Now I'm going to give you 3 combos. What's your favorite? Ramondre Stevenson and Jalen Hurts. Ramondre Stevenson and Devontae Smith. Devontae Smith and T. Higgins.
I've done all of those combinations except for the quarterback one. So I will say I kind of like going with the 3 receivers because it gives you, 3 potential top 12 guys, especially PPR. And then that running back value that you see in rounds 4, 5, and 6 can still give you a very solid roster. So I like the receivers the best.
Yeah, I mean, this one's definitely format dependent, and there's like 6 different correct answers. But for a PPR league where you can start 3 wide receivers, I'll go with Jamie and the 3 wide receivers.
I guess I should have given you like Jalen Hurts and Devontae Smith, or Jalen Hurts and T. Higgins.
Yeah, it would have been the answer for me.
Okay, that makes more sense. So, what would Jamie? If you could do that combination, you start with Jefferson.
No, I would not change it. No.
All right, you stick with the 3 receivers.
Yeah, I like Bijan better than the quarterbacks. I mean, I'm sorry, I like Ramondre better than the quarterback.
I like Bijan better than them too. I didn't know he was going to be available. All right, let's do some risers and fallers. Jamie, Deshaun Watson is he just a winner, or is he an actual rankings riser?
No, I moved him ahead of Richardson in redraft rankings. I think you just look at, again, we're talking upside, and you've talked about this a lot, DeShazer, as what Watson could be. If he's back to his form pre-suspension, that there's top 5 upside there. I don't know if he's going to get there with his team, if he's still that type of guy, but he looked great. He really did. And that was without Cooper and a banged up Elijah Moore. So we'll see what this complete offense looks like. But it's a great offensive line. It's a very good receiving core. He's going to have a run game to support him. If he runs a little bit, like we saw, there's a chance for him to be, again, another quality fantasy quarterback. And so I don't know if he has as much upside as Tua. That's the one I think that I'll struggle with, because Tua right now is 9 for me. Watson is 10. But they're very close in terms of what the upside could be.
A lot of scampering from Deshaun Watson. All right, another winner, a riser, is Khalil Herbert and Kenneth Gainwell. We talked about them. Ty Chandler, are you drafting him right now? If you were drafting today, Ty Chandler as a handcuff to Alexander Mattison?
As a handcuff and as, late round dart throw, without drafting Madison. These are the type of guys that if there's an injury or Madison struggles, again, it's first time being in this role, and some of the metrics are terrible for Madison. So if this is a guy in Chandler who had a good preseason last year and is off to a good start this year, gets the chance to be in that starter's role for whatever reason, could end up being a top 20 running back. So these are the type of guys I like to take with late round picks.
You moved DJ Moore up. We talked about that. You moved him ahead of Jerry Jeudy and Keenan Allen. Tank Dell, he's still, even since Friday, he had his big game on Thursday. Even since Friday on NFC, Tank Dell was wide receiver 75 in average draft position. Where is Tank Dell for you? Houston rookie Tank Dell.
He's in the 50s. I think, again, you just look at this receiving core. And we've talked about this a lot. I like Nico Collins the best, but there's going to be an opportunity here for at least one receiver to be north of 100 targets and maybe two guys to be in that range. And Mechie's going to be a factor. Robert Woods, I know we don't want to expect that, but he's going to be a factor. Dalton Schultz is obviously going to be a factor. But, all you're hearing is great practice reports. And forget about the preseason, because everything that he did was with, not CJ Stroud. All 5 of his catches were from Davis Mills. It's not exactly hard to see that he's open all the time. And, D'Amico Ryans in the media session, I think it was on Sunday, Saturday, they were crossing paths in the media session. And he said to Tank Dell, according to the reporters there, stop killing my defense, or something like that. Like, he's just making plays all the time, so it's hard to just say, when you talk about the Alan Lazards and the Tyler Boyds and the guys in Carolina and, some of these situations here, a guy that CJ Stroud reportedly wanted. I know where he worked out in pre-combine stuff and the work that he put in and the type of player that he is. It's just somebody I think you get excited about, the late round pick.
Would you take Tank Dell or a Giants wide receiver?
Tank Dell.
Tank Dell.
Okay. Would you take Tank Dell?
Unless Wandale was 100% healthy, which we know is not the case.
Is this crazy to Tank Dell or to Kadarius Toney? That's crazy, right?
They're in the same range for me. I think if Tony's definitely guaranteed to play week 1, I'd probably take him, but just because of his quarterback, but it's not that far off.
Okay. And Dalton Kincaid is a riser for you. He's tight end 13 in Fantasy Pros ADP. Where's Dalton Kincaid for you?
He's 12th. So again, replacing Dulcich for me. I just like the fact that he played every snap with the starters, and you've heard, again, nothing but positive reports this training camp. So upside, we say this a lot at quarterback and tight end. When you get to these late round picks, who's got upside, and he has as much as anybody. So you could say the also ran guys of Tyler Higbee and Juwan Johnson and Gerald Everett and those guys, and still want to take a chance on Dulcich. I get it. Laporta, same thing. I think just these guys have the opportunity to be with, certainly Kincaid's situation, a quarterback that is going to be fantastic, a system that's going to be fantastic, a team that went out and targeted him aggressively, taking him in the first round and trading up to go get him in the first round. So as long as he doesn't flop because it's too much for him to handle, which doesn't sound like it's going to be the case, there's a lot to like there.
I don't think this is the first preseason where we've been fretting a little bit about seeing Adam Troutman play ahead of someone, and then Troutman never does anything when the regular season comes around.
Who has done something playing with him?
I feel like maybe
Taysom Hill.
Maybe Jared Cook. Am I getting the years mixed up?
I don't think it's about Adam Troutman being better than Greg Dulcich, at least not for me. It's just about there's a potential speed bump or roadblock that is going to keep Dulcich from taking that next step. And so it's not a complete, oh my God, don't draft Greg Dulcich or completely run away from him. But when you're starting to look at upside here, who do you want to trust? Do you want to trust maybe the third target for Josh Allen or the third target for Russell Wilson?
Yeah. And that's a big maybe. I think those when we've gotten excited about like the Mike Gesicki types, the tight ends who aren't really tight ends and they're more like wide receivers. But I don't know how many of those guys have actually exceeded expectations over the last few years. Like if Dulcich is gonna play 50 to 60% of the snaps, and be behind Judy and Sutton in terms of targets on a bad offense. It's hard to, maybe he scores a bunch of touchdowns. It's about the only path.
Okay, let's see. Before we get to Heath's risers, and I think we've covered all of them except for one. Let's see what people are saying about the Bear in the YouTube chat, and it runs the gamut. The Bear is great from Sean. Season 1 is great. Season 2 is good. From Adam, the Bear is similar to Jamal Williams. Not flashy or super exciting, but is solid and gets the job done. From David, the Bear is unbearable. And from No Thank You, Adam as head chef in the Bear. Redo this dish. You use mustard. This isn't supposed to be spicy. Mustard is spicy. Of course it's spicy. Like that's the thing.
Are you talking about regular mustard being spicy?
Yeah, it's a little spicy.
What?
It's a little spicy.
Yellow mustard is spicy?
I think so. Maybe I haven't had it in so long, but I think it is.
What do you put on your hot dogs?
Ketchup. Well, I don't put anything on my hot dogs. I just enjoy the hot dog. You know?
Do you go plain?
Yeah.
Just drizzle a little extra hot dog water on it, and you're good to go.
I went to Marlins Yankees on Saturday. Good showing by your team, by the way, this weekend.
Yes.
So I got 4 hot dogs for myself and my 3 kids. 2 went with nothing on it, and the only smart one was the 5-year-old who had ketchup and mustard.
All right, but like there's a scene in The Bear where they're catering at a kids party, and the guys they're making hot dogs, and he says, "Where'd you put the ketchup?" And the guy says, "I didn't bring any ketchup." "Why didn't you bring ketchup?" He says, "Because who puts ketchup on a hot dog?" And he said, "Kids." I guess that's who puts ketchup on a hot dog. All right, Heath, your only riser that we haven't talked about. He gave me Gainwell, Khalil Herbert, DJ Moore, Tank Dell, New Orleans wide receiver A.T. Perry. So this is something you were referencing at the beginning of the show.
Another guy who didn't play with the starters, but really, really popped with Jameis Winston, especially that first drive against some of the Chiefs starters. Like he just destroyed, I think it was McDuffie out of the slot. Looked really, really good. And listen, like the guys who are definitely ahead of him, Chris Olave, who couldn't even catch a pass. And no, Chris Olave. But then it's Michael Thomas, and we know what the injury concerns are with him. And like Rashid Shaheed is a big time question mark. So there's a path. I don't think Perry like moves up into the where we're ranking him in the top 60 wide receivers or anything like that, but he's in my top 200 now. He's on that list of guys who I like a lot of people in dynasty leagues, including my leagues. You don't get to add anybody through most of training camp. And then you get to that final week of the preseason or whatever, and waivers pops up and there's six guys you want to add. I think Perry should be one of those guys.
Okay, I want to throw out some possible rankings risers or just guys that impressed maybe and see what you guys think. But before I do that, Heath, let me get your thoughts on Khalil Herbert, because I know you were concerned about the pass protection thing, and I do think it's worth pointing out on the first play of the game, in my opinion, Khalil Herbert pretty much whiffed on pass protection. But then, of course, he had the 56-yard touchdown catch and run, which was very nice, even though he sort of bobbled the ball. But you're moving him up. Okay, what does that mean? Give me a little context there.
He was at the 9-10 turn for me. He's now going to be at the 8-9 turn. I still have him behind DeAndre Swift, but there's room for him to still move up into that round 7-ish range if this continues. I thought it was kind of a mixed bag for him because, like, obviously the catch was awesome. The pass protection was not. And then Roschon Johnson, who is the best probably pass protector on the team, looked fantastic as a runner against lesser competition. So I do think that there's still some concern that this is a big, ugly mess at running back for the Bears, but it was nice that he made a big play.
Okay. I would throw out Cortland Sutton and Romeo Doubs as winners. Just the targets. Look, it's so hard to make a lot of it, but make a lot out of it. But Doubs, especially because he's going so late. Sutton is about around pick 100. They were really involved. And the thing about Doubs is there was a training camp, I believe it was in The Athletic, the beat writer predicted who would lead the team in catches, and he predicted Romeo Doubs would lead the team in catches. And I think that was after they drafted Jaden Reed. And then we had I think I said training camp, I meant like mini camp. And we had a report, I don't know, sometime in the last few months that Love just kept looking for Doubs, and we always dismiss it. But there he was. I believe he out-targeted Watson 3-2. It wasn't a huge deal. Did he catch a touchdown, Romeo Doubs? He did, right?
Yes.
So Doubs and Sutton, to me, are guys that had good preseasons. Preseason week 1, at the very least, I'd say got off on the right foot. Your thoughts?
They're easy picks after pick 100 based on ADP right now. So it's just, these are the type of guys that you draft as either wide receiver 4, some cases wide receiver 5 on your roster that could be in that mix to be the number 3 wide receiver. I don't know how much higher the ceiling is unless really a lot of things break right, but there's certainly the potential there, especially, you look at Dobbs and playing with, a guy in the same class, rookie wide receiver class. And we saw what happened in the first, 5 or 6 games last year before Dobbs had the toe injury, that he was the better of the 2 rookies. So I think there's a lot to like about that. I just want to give a quick shout out though to, I keep referencing this. So XP Sports is the trainer I keep referencing. Listen to the guys that they had training this year. We've already talked about a couple of them, Tank Dell and A.T. Perry. Jahmyr Gibbs was with them. Rashee Rice was with them. Jaden Reed was with them. Jordan Addison was with them. Chase Brown. Trying to think. Kenny McIntosh. Demario Douglas is another guy to keep an eye on. Could be one of the top 3 receivers there for the Patriots. Had a good preseason game. It's a very impressive group. So I just want to give them a little shout out, a little respect, because they're always good to me. And having a good start so far to their rookie campaign, the guys that they train.
Let's take a break here. And when we come back, I want to get your rankings fallers and ask you about one player in particular who I will deem the most interesting man in fantasy football this year. We'll be right back. Who's the most interesting man in fantasy football? It's Anthony Richardson. What did you guys think of Anthony Richardson's preseason debut?
Meh.
I thought the interception is going to get blown out of proportion. That he was trying, I tried to read almost every account from the Colts beat writers to see what it was that they were seeing and what they saw. That I think the common theme was he was trying to play a little bit too much hero ball. A little bit was Isaiah McKenzie didn't flatten out his route on the RPO. But I think a lot of the response out of it was how he responded from that. And Alec Pierce, if he catches that touchdown, we probably feel a little bit different because the throw was there. It was a nice throw to the corner at the pylon. So I think there's mixed reviews. And this was part of my struggle with Deshaun Watson moving ahead of Richardson. Because again, talking about upside, who has more upside of those 2 guys, but I think there's certainly more downside for Richardson, which is why I made that switch. So, I was not swayed at all by his lack of overwhelming stats and certainly a lack of rushing, because I think that's certainly going to be there for him.
I think at the very least, you'd have to say Richardson didn't do anything that would give the Colts reason to say, oh, we cannot start him in week 1. It wasn't the catastrophic, holy cow, he's not ready. Right?
I mean, the pick was awful.
So.
I don't know if the pick was awful, because I do think the route had something to do with it. But yeah, the pick wasn't good. He's not going to be as good as Gardner Minshew. I mean, they've already said that. But he certainly recovered nicely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
okay.
those are the kind of mistakes that you're going to see probably weeks 1 through 7. There's going to be like 3 or 4 of those over the course of that time. Like, oh my God, what did he do? The question is it going to be Jameis Winston? What did he do? And they're pick 6s and they never stop. Or is it going to be, okay, he matures and he understands and they're fixable? And that was the thing I read a lot of. Fixable mistake. So is it he doesn't have to force it there, understand what's happening, and is McKenzie replaced by Josh Downs? And as he gets better, that's the spot that he's playing to. So, yeah, it was ugly, but I don't think it should be all on him.
Okay, rankings fallers. Heath, we've already talked about Greg Dulcich. He didn't fall for you, but he's a loser. Jamie's already talked about that. If you can add on if you want. You talked to me about Jonathan Taylor. Breece Hall, though, is a faller for you.
Yeah, it's just like I'm getting more and more nervous. And I'm probably not going to drop him any more than this. I've got him in around like 5-6 range now. But I don't think that he's going to be a feature back this season. I think it's going to be a committee, like it's been a committee almost every year that Hackett's run an offense. And I don't like the fact that he's still not 100% at this point in the preseason. And it just got a little bit closer to the start of the season and him still not being ready. And so I dropped him a little bit further.
Okay. Who did you move him behind?
Well, I've got him like looking at the list of the rankings here. It's on our consensus rankings. It's Hall, Montgomery, Javonte Williams, Kamara, Ken Walker, Cam Akers. And I have him behind all of those guys except for Ken Walker.
Okay. You have Javonte Williams ahead of him?
I do.
Jamie, do you have Javonte Williams or Breece Hall?
Still Breece Hall, but it's the same concerns. I mean, the fact that Williams is back is clearly a benefit to him, but I just don't think he's as good a player. The thing that's shocking to me, though, is when I see these analyst drafts where Breece Hall still goes at the 2-3 turn or early in the third round. I just don't understand that.
Right.
So I think the hope would be, and this is why I still would draft Breece Hall in the round 4, round 5 range, but he doesn't typically fall that far, is that he has a longer stretch, but the type of finish that J.K. Dobbins had last season. But it's not just a 4-game sample size; it's hopefully an 8-game sample size, and maybe they're being cautious in holding him out. But you have to factor in when you're doing a draft with Breece Hall, A, that he's not healthy, and B, that there's still the chance of Dalvin Cook coming. So I understand why people like Heath are moving off of him completely. You're not going to get him in that range because somebody's going to take a chance on him sooner than that. So if you're just out, you're out. And so you might as well just go with the guys that you're going to take ahead of him. And in Heath's case, you're taking those guys. I still view Javonte Williams being safe. So if I'm looking at who has more upside between those two, I think Breece Hall has more upside.
Okay, let's talk about Jamie's rankings fallers. The only one we haven't spoken about so far is Deontay Foreman. Although we spent enough time talking about Khalil Herbert.
We're just kind of tying it into it.
Yeah. Is he the last running back you take on the Bears now? How long has that been the case, if that is the case?
From the draft, I really like the potential of Roschon Johnson, and he had a nice run. I think if you saw, he broke some tackles and, is going to be a presence for them. So this isn't a Khalil Herbert's escaped any competition. But I think if you just look at it, okay, who played the most with the starters? And then how did the backup sort of shake out? And Foreman was, definitely behind Herbert, and I don't think has as much upside as Johnson does. But there's going to be, probably a stretch in the season. Hopefully it's not more than 3 or 4 games where Deontay Foreman probably matters. So you still take a late round flyer on him. It's just a matter of at what point does he get a chance to, get those touchdown opportunities and those rushing opportunities, because he's definitely not going to be a factor in the pass game. Never has in his career.
So one player I want to see what happens if they keep playing their starters is Najee Harris, because this was not a good game for Najee Harris. This was not Jaylen Warren being used as a third down back. This was a true committee, just based on what we saw in one quarter, basically, of preseason football, if that. I don't remember how long they played, but I don't know if you guys had any strong thoughts on that. I mean, look, actually, it was a pretty good day for the offense. Pickens' touchdown was really nice. Deontay got a ton of targets, of course. But Najee Harris did not separate himself from Jaylen Warren, even in snaps, I don't think, or role.
I mean, Heath, you're the anti-Najee guy, so go ahead.
Yeah, but this is another one of those guys. Like I didn't move him down because I've already got him at, like, I guess he is still RB17. I could see moving Damian Pierce or Rashad White or James Conner or those guys ahead of him. But yeah, I'm pretty concerned that he was just propped up by run volume in the second half of last season and scoring touchdowns, and that Jaylen Warren is better runner and definitely better in the passing game right now.
You just, the thing that should make you feel good about Najee is the history of the coach. And so is that going to be a philosophy change that they go with multiple guys? Now you could say, okay, last year we dealt with Najee struggling through the first half of the season because he wasn't healthy, dealing with the foot injury, and that maybe Jaylen Warren does offer some different things if they are going to consider themselves a playoff team. But, I think Najee's volume is still relatively safe. It's just a matter of, is the ceiling for his volume safe? So he's going to be the lead running back there. It's just going to be a 70-30 split, which is probably something we've never seen. I don't know the exact math on it, but, is it 60-40? Is it 50-50? Then you really got to be panicked on Najee. So 70-30 I'd be okay with. Give Jaylen Warren some work, let Najee get through the season healthy. But yeah, it's certainly, you can't draft Najee, I think, comfortably anywhere close to the second round, and even early part of the third round is a little bit risky at this point too.
And I do like, could we use the Mike Tomlin has never used a committee in favor of Jaylen Warren? Like, if Warren just continues to be better than Najee Harris, does it become that Jaylen Warren's just the feature running back?
That would be huge shift. Wow.
But you know what I think may have happened? I'd have to go back and look. I'm looking at the play log right now. I guess it was only one possession, and those guys had a great drive, 83-yard touchdown drive, I think. Man, you remember what the Eagles did when they played their starters last year in the preseason? They came out and they threw and threw and threw and threw and threw. And 2 years ago, they were the most run-heavy team in football by far. And then they came out and just unleashed Jalen Hurts. And it was kind of a sign of things to come. And I actually think this might be a little underrated here, under the radar anyway. Kenny Pickett, shotgun. Kenny Pickett, shotgun pass. Kenny Pickett, shotgun pass. Those were the first 3 plays. They were in the shotgun most of the drive, if not all of the drive, and throwing the ball most of the drive. And they had a very nice touchdown drive to start the quarter. So is that a sign of things to come? The reports have been they're going to be run heavy. They were not in this possession.
And if you just put a blindfold, not a blindfold wouldn't work because then you wouldn't be able to see it. But just all you could see was the history of Matt Canada as a play caller. What would look like an anomaly would be the second half of last year when they were run heavy. He's been insanely pass heavy in the past.
Something to keep in mind.
I
Sometimes
think they are also a little bit more pass heavy than we give them credit for last year, because didn't Kenny Pickett suffer concussion toward the end of the season?
I don't think. Maybe. I don't remember that. I don't know.
It felt like that after he came back, they were a little bit more gun shy.
It was really the last 8 games or 9 games after their bye. He did. Yeah, he came out in the Baltimore game, and then he missed the Carolina game weeks 14 and 15.
And it was also, I mean, clearly they were going through some quarterback shuffling because of his situation. Trubisky, starting the season. Look, they might just have more faith in Pickett.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an excellent receiving core on paper. If Allen Robinson has anything left to offer, because we like, to whatever degree, Johnson, Pickens, and Freiermuth. So those guys have a lot to show. I will say this, though, the Pickens touchdown, that safety took such an awful route to try and tackle him. It was so bad. So bad. He's just making these highlight plays. I wonder how much of that's going to carry over the regular season. Are people going to overdraft him, or are you going to be, okay, I don't trust it yet? I'm so fascinated by his ADP on our side is a little bit too crazy. He's like wide receiver 27. He's going ahead of Deontay Johnson. Now, again, our ADP takes into account PPR and non and half PPR all combined. So non-PPR, you want to make a case that he's going to score more touchdowns than Deontay Johnson. I get that, but I still wouldn't have that much to spare. The 24 picks apart right now in our ADP.
Wow.
Like give me Deontay Johnson all day. And I if this is the case, Pickens can score all the touchdowns he wants. I'm going to win a nice lunch from Dave, because 3 targets to 1 and just that small sample size.
Adam, what was that week that Watt came back?
After the bye.
After the bye.
Week 10.
Because I was just looking like it. I don't know. Kenny Pickett basically averaged 33 pass attempts per game in the games that he started. There were 2 games where he got the concussion after 1 pass and then missed a game. Mm-hmm. But he was at 32, 33 pass attempts even in the second half after Watt came back.
I don't know about that. Well, he had a game with 42 pass attempts. He had a game with 39. The other 5 games, he had 30, 28, 28, 27, and 29.
So that would be an average of about 32 to 33.
Okay, and then look at his 3 starts before that, or maybe before the bye: 52, 44, 38. I don't remember which games were partial here. I think he had 2 partial games, but the only 3 games that he completed, he threw a lot more. I mean, if you want me to tell, I can tell you Najee Harris averaged a lot more carries per game after the bye.
Right. I'm wondering how many of those, how that is being impacted by those 2 games that Kenny Pickett didn't play.
I don't know. It's probably not worth investigating, because, look, it's a new year. Hopefully, if they do have more confidence and he's better, if he's just good, then they could really surprise people with their passing stats this year. I hope they continue to play their starters. I hope we get some more clues. All right. Other things here real quick. Baker Mayfield definitely had the better game than Kyle Trask. Trey Lance was awful.
Oh my God.
Terrible.
That poor, look, to be fair, he didn't have any weapons, and he's played what, like 4 games now in the last 4 seasons? Like, what is it? How many times has he actually been on a football field? But he looked bad. And again, if you're just looking at it, hopefully not a blindfold on, but if you're just looking at the box score, that touchdown to Ross Dwelley was not a pretty pass at all.
No, it was deflected off of a Raider and into the arms of Ross Dwelley. So Trey Lance, not a good outing for him.
No.
Let's see. The Washington running backs were interesting. Brian Robinson, he didn't play on 3rd down, but he did play on a 1st and 20, and then a second, I think, and even longer. So he was in on obvious passing downs. He even caught a screen pass. Brian Robinson. Evan Hull started for the Colts. Deion Jackson was in on the next possession. Those guys kind of rotated.
Drake didn't play, right?
No, I don't know, but it was Hull and Jackson to start. Let's see. Jahan Dotson, awesome route that he ran on his touchdown. And Juwan Johnson, 2 catches on 2 targets on the one drive with the starters with Derek Carr. Tight end 16 on CBS, tight end 19 on Fantasy Pros. Final thought on Juwan Johnson?
He's a good, great, or late option.
I think tight end 16 to 19 sounds just about right.
I think if you go in with a Laporta, Kincaid, one of those two, that's a good second tight end to pair him with if you can't get somebody better.
Look at this wonderful audience. 1,300 people watching today on YouTube. Thank you so much. Please hit that like button. If you think we earned a like, hit that like button. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning with our favorite sleepers for 2023. Have a great day, everybody. See you then.